Sue around the waterhole, the distant chirp of a morning bird, the gentle rustle of insects through the grass, the faint splash of water as a fish flicked its tail. Each sound was a part of the rhythm it had learned to follow for years. Its eyes, sharp and glimmering, fixed on the peacock, calculating the distance, the timing, the perfect moment when instinct and opportunity would collide. In that quiet, still morning, the predator's heartbeat seemed almost in sync with the gentle sway of the savanna itself. The peacock continued his preening, oblivious to the danger just beyond the grass. His feathers caught the sunlight, each plume glowing with a dazzling shimmer that seemed almost too beautiful for the harsh rules of the wild. He took a careful sip from the water, the droplets running down his beak and dripping into the pool below, rippling the reflection of the rising sun. He cooed softly, a sound meant for courtship or recognition, a note of life that had survived countless mornings like this one. For a moment, the world seemed simple and eternal, each sound, each color, each motion a part of the delicate, fragile perfection of life on the savanna. But then, almost imperceptibly, the air shifted. A faint rustle came from the edge of the grass where the tiger hid. It was soft, almost like a whisper, yet it prickled at the peacock's senses. His head jerked up, feathers ruffling in sudden awareness. The sharp instincts buried deep within him, the instincts that had guided his ancestors for generations, screamed a warning he could not ignore. He froze, his dark eyes scanning the horizon, his body tense, every muscle coiled in readiness. Somewhere, deep in his chest, a spike of fear rose, subtle at first, then growing, threading through his calm morning like a thread of smoke through sunlight. The giraffe, still grazing, felt the shift too. Though her eyes remained calm, her ears flicked, capturing every faint sound. She turned her massive head slowly toward the underbrush, the long muscles of her neck rippling as she scanned the shadows. Her heart, steady and slow until now, began to thrum, sensing the ripple of danger that even the wind could not hide. The savanna, which had seemed so calm only moments ago, held its breath along with her, the rustling grass and distant birds falling into a tense silence as if the world itself waited for what would come next. The peacock's feathers flared slightly as he stepped back, instinct urging him away from the underbrush. His eyes locked on the small movement in the distance. Two amber slits, glimmering like molten gold through the shadows. The tiger shifted its weight slightly, muscles tightening, patience absolute. In that heartbeat, the world seemed to compress, the gentle symphony of the morning replaced with the sharp, electric tension of predator and prey. The wind slowed, the light seemed to pause, and even the birds stopped their chirping, leaving the savanna in a pregnant silence. Time seemed to stretch, the calm of dawn giving way to a quiet dread. The peacock's breath came faster, a subtle rustle of feathers against the warm morning air. Every instinct screamed at him to flee, but the vast openness of the waterhole offered no hiding place. Somewhere near him, the giraffe's shadow moved slightly, almost imperceptibly, a giant presence in the distance, calm but aware, watching over the smaller creature. The contrast between vulnerability and strength, fear and protection, filled the air like a living thing. The peacock took another careful step backward, wings trembling, sensing the imminent threat, while the tiger's eyes narrowed, calculating. The morning light glinted off its fur, painting it in stripes of orange and black that shimmered with lethal elegance. And for a brief, fleeting moment, everything in the savanna, the sun, the grass, the water, the peacock, and even the distant giraffe, seemed suspended in anticipation, a delicate balance teetering on the edge of survival. Then, as if the air itself had spoken, the peacock paused completely, feathers frozen, body taut, every nerve alight with instinct. The sun reflected off his brilliant plumage one last time before the shadow of danger began to move, creeping closer, deliberate, inevitable. And in that suspended heartbeat, the savanna held its breath, the gentle rhythm of life waiting, knowing that in the next moments, everything would change. The sudden roar of the savanna shattered the quiet morning like a gunshot. Dust rose in curling clouds as a blur of amber and black streaked from the underbrush. The tiger's body coiled with lethal precision, every muscle rippling under its striped fur, its claws catching the soft light as it leapt with a predator's perfect timing. The peacock froze for a heartbeat, startled by the explosion of movement, before panic erupted in every feather. Wings beat furiously, creating a frantic whirl of color and sound as he darted backward, scraping the sandy earth with his talons. A spray of dust mixed with morning dew, and for a moment, the savanna seemed to vanish under a storm of motion, leaving only predator, prey, and the raw tension that hung between them. The air itself seemed to tighten, pressing down on everything with an almost physical weight. Every bird song ceased. Even the wind through the acacia leaves slowed, as if nature itself paused to watch the unfolding terror. The peacock's eyes were wide and dark, pupils dilated with fear, his breath coming in rapid, shallow bursts. Each frantic flap of his wings was a desperate attempt to escape, yet the tiger matched his every move, silent paws barely leaving a mark on the ground, claws ready to strike with deadly accuracy. The sound of a snapping twig echoed like thunder, and the predator's growl rolled low, vibrating through the earth and into the peacock's chest. Panic pulsed through the little bird like a river breaking its banks. From a distance, the giraffe observed the unfolding scene, her tall silhouette swaying slightly as her heart began to race. She had grazed peacefully only moments ago, the calm giant of the savanna, watching the smaller creatures with quiet detachment. Now, the serenity of the morning had shattered, replaced by a visceral surge of alarm. The vulnerability of the peacock pressed heavily on her awareness, each rapid flutter of the bird's wings echoing in her chest like a call for help she could not ignore. Long legs braced in the soft earth, she shifted her weight, preparing, instincts sharpening. The giraffe knew the limits of her reach and the power in her stride. Though gentle by nature, she was capable of overwhelming force when the survival of another was at stake. The tiger's eyes locked on the peacock again, calculating. Each movement was measured, the promise of death in every twitch of its tail. The peacock darted left, then right, feathers flashing, legs scrambling, talons scraping the dirt. Dust clouds rose in thick swirls, making the world a blur of brown, gold, and shifting shadows. The roar of the tiger's frustration cut through the thickening air. The small bird's panic was a beacon, but in that chaos, the savanna held its breath, suspended between life and death. Time seemed to stretch, each second a drawn-out beat of terror. Then, almost imperceptibly at first, the giraffe began to move. Her steps were deliberate, measured, almost ritualistic until momentum took over. With a sudden burst of courage, she lunged forward, a towering force of muscle and grace. Her hooves struck the earth with heavy thuds, reverberating like distant drums. Neck swinging in wide, protective arcs, she created a living wall between predator and prey. The tiger's ears flattened as the massive presence bore down, hissing through bared teeth. The dust-filled air swirled around them like a living storm, carrying the tang of sweat, dry earth, and fear. The peacock, panting and trembling, ducked low as the giraffe's towering form loomed over him, a shield he could not fully comprehend but instinctively trusted. He flapped his wings weakly, shrieking in terror, but the immediate threat shifted. The tiger skidded backward, claws scratching the dirt as it assessed this unexpected obstacle. Its eyes narrowed, stripes blending with shadow and sun, calculating whether the fight was worth the risk. The sheer size and movement of the giraffe created a wall of unpredictability, and for the first time, the predator hesitated. The jungle's rhythm, usually dominated by the predator's heartbeat, faltered. Chaos reigned around them. The tiger snarled, every muscle coiled for attack. But the giraffe's aggressive stomps and sweeping neck movements forced it to retreat, pawing at the ground in frustration. The peacock shrieked again, a shrill, piercing note of desperation, wings flaring, feathers scattering like shards of sapphire and emerald in the swirling dust. The giraffe pivoted with surprising agility, swinging her long legs to drive the predator further back, her breath loud in her chest, her heart racing with a mixture of fear and determination. The world seemed to tilt, the line between predator and protector blurred, as nature staged a raw, emotional standoff. Each moment stretched painfully. The tiger paused, muscles tense, fangs bared, ears swiveling. The giraffe's eyes never left the small, trembling figure at her feet. The peacock's feathers caught fragments of sunlight through the dust, glittering like sparks in a storm. The air was thick with the scent of wild grass, earth, and the metallic tang of fear. Every creature nearby seemed frozen in awe and anxiety. Even the distant trees, normally swaying gently in the morning wind, held their leaves still, as though watching the battle unfold with bated breath. For a heartbeat, it seemed that time itself had paused. The peacock crouched low, quivering, unsure whether flight could save him. The giraffe planted her hooves firmly, muscles taut, a living promise of protection. The tiger's growl rolled low, uncertain now, respect mingling with hunger. Dust swirled around them, catching the morning sun in tiny golden particles that drifted like fragile sparks through the air. And then, slowly, the tiger backed away, muscles relaxing just enough to allow a measured retreat. The peacock's wings settled against his body, trembling violently as he took in the enormity of what had just happened. He blinked, feathers ruffling, and for a moment, the weight of terror remained, a deep, vibrating ache in his chest. The giraffe lowered her head slightly, a slow, deliberate gesture that was both comfort and warning, as if to say, "You are safe for now." The wind returned, gentle and cooling, rustling through the grasses and carrying with it the scent of rain from distant clouds. Birds resumed their songs, timid at first, then growing bolder, filling the savanna with fragile life once again. In the aftermath, the dust settled slowly, settling like a blanket over the earth, leaving the scene both calm and solemn. The peacock took a cautious step forward, wings slightly raised, eyes wide but aware that the giraffe remained a silent guardian nearby. The tiger's amber eyes glimmered one last time from the shadows before it melted back into the underbrush, retreating to the safety of camouflage and cunning. The savanna exhaled with them, a slow release of tension, leaving behind the quiet hum of life, the soft rustle of leaves, and a single, unspoken truth. Courage can come in the largest forms, and even the smallest lives can find protection in unexpected places. The morning sun climbed higher, warming the golden grasses and casting long shadows across the plains. The peacock fluffed his feathers, still trembling but alive, and the giraffe grazed again, her presence steady, calm, and unwavering. The savanna resumed its quiet rhythm, the echoes of terror fading into memory, replaced by a fragile, beautiful peace. In that moment, the small and the large, the vulnerable and the strong, were bound together in the unspoken language of survival, trust, and courage. A silent story that would ripple across the plains long after the dust had settled. The tiger melted into the shadows of the acacia trees, its amber eyes flickering one last time before vanishing into the underbrush. Its retreat was cautious, measured, an acknowledgement that today was not its day, yet a quiet reminder that danger always lingered in the savanna. The peacock remained frozen for a moment, wings trembling, tail feathers partially spread like a shield against the memory of terror. Each heartbeat pounded in his chest, a rapid drum of fear slowly easing into relief. He blinked against the sunlight, unsure if what he had just survived was real or a nightmare conjured by instinct. Slowly, he lowered his head, the quivering in his wings softening as he realized the predator had gone, leaving him alive beside the towering figure of the giraffe. The giraffe lowered her long neck, moving with deliberate grace, so that her head hovered just above the peacock. Her eyes were calm, gentle, and steady, reflecting a quiet wisdom that seemed to fill the empty spaces left by the tiger's presence. The peacock lifted his gaze and found reassurance in that silent stare. He sensed, without fully understanding, that this enormous creature had become his protector. Her warm, steady presence created a bubble of safety in a world that had felt chaotic and threatening only moments before. A subtle breeze rustled the acacia leaves, carrying the faint scent of wet earth from a distant stream and hints of rain in the far-off horizon. grounding them both in the enduring rhythm of life on the savanna. Tentatively, the peacock spread his wings again, watching as sunlight danced across the iridescent feathers, turning them into ribbons of liquid sapphire and emerald. Each movement was careful, almost ritualistic, as if he were reasserting his presence in a world that had threatened to take it from him. The gentle flapping of his wings stirred dust from the dry earth, tiny motes sparkling in the golden light, creating a private celebration of survival. The giraffe shifted slightly, her enormous frame brushing the tops of the grasses, as if signaling that the plains had returned to order. For the first time in what felt like an eternity, the peacock could breathe fully again, his body releasing the tension that had kept him frozen in fear. As the sun climbed higher in the sky, the savanna seemed to sigh. The grasses swayed lazily in the warm afternoon breeze, stretching their long, golden limbs toward the horizon. Birds resumed their quiet songs, their calls threading through the landscape in gentle, fragmented patterns. Insects buzzed lazily among the wildflowers, their rhythm punctuating the soft rustle of the acacia leaves. Life returned to the plains, subtle and deliberate, as if honoring the tiny miracle that had just occurred. The peacock's feathers glimmered with every movement, a living emblem of resilience, fragile yet radiant in the vast openness of the golden landscape. The giraffe bent down slowly to graze once more, her long neck sweeping the tender shoots from the ground with graceful precision. The small, trembling bird moved closer to her shadow, finding comfort in the quiet power that loomed protectively over him. Every step the giraffe took was careful, measured, as though she understood the delicate balance between safety and danger that now hung in the air. There was no rush, no frantic movement. Only the steady rhythm of a world that had survived a moment of chaos and was now reasserting itself with quiet dignity. As the afternoon deepened, the golden light softened, spreading warm pools across the plains. The peacock stretched his wings fully, practicing the motions he had abandoned in panic, each stroke a statement of recovery and renewed confidence. The wind carried a hint of moisture from distant rain clouds, mingling with the scent of earth and grasses, a reminder that life always persists despite danger. The giraffe's shadow stretched long across the plains, a silent witness to the fragile harmony of the moment. She grazed calmly, unhurried, a gentle giant whose courage had transformed fear into safety. For a heartbeat, predator and prey seemed suspended in the same space, separated not by instinct alone, but by the extraordinary intervention of empathy and courage. The peacock stepped closer to the giraffe, feathers shimmering as he moved with careful steps, almost reverentially. The memory of terror still lingered in his chest, but it was tempered now by awe and trust. He realized, in some instinctive way, that even the most vulnerable could find protection in the unlikeliest of allies. Across the plains, the tiger's presence had vanished, leaving only the residue of tension in the air and the enduring lesson that courage could come in forms far greater than size or ferocity alone. The giraffe remained calm, a silent guardian, embodying the principle that strength without aggression could save lives just as surely as force could take them. The savanna returned to its gentle pulse, the quiet rhythm of life resuming with the soft sway of grasses, the gentle murmuring of a distant stream, and the distant, intermittent calls of other animals going about their routines. The peacock's feathers caught the last glimmers of the sun, transforming into a cascade of colors that glittered like scattered gems across the golden earth. The giraffe bent down to graze again, her long neck a bridge between vulnerability and protection, between fear and reassurance. Every movement was slow, deliberate, and full of a quiet dignity that contrasted with the violence of the morning's events. As the sun dipped lower, casting long, soft shadows across the plains, the peacock finally relaxed completely. He spread his wings fully, stretching them as if to claim the space around him once more, to declare that he had survived. The light caught each feather, turning them into a spectrum of color that shimmered and danced across the earth. The gentle swaying of the grass, the calm presence of the giraffe, and the distant hum of insects created a sense of fragile, precious peace. In this moment, the plains were quiet, not because danger had disappeared forever, but because courage and compassion had carved a sanctuary in the midst of it. The giraffe grazed slowly, her shadow stretching long and slender across the golden landscape. The peacock nestled in the safety of her presence, recovering from fear, yet alive and shimmering with renewed life. The savanna exhaled slowly, the tension of earlier hours dissipating like morning mist under the sun's warming rays. The tiger remained a distant memory, a reminder of the wild's dangers. Yet the focus of the day had shifted. The fragile beauty of survival, the quiet bond between protector and the protected, and the extraordinary truth that courage could appear in the gentlest of giants. The peacock ruffled his feathers one final time, wings spreading like a living rainbow in the soft afternoon light. A sense of reflection settled over the plains, heavy but comforting, as if the savanna itself had taken stock of the small miracle that had unfolded. Life would continue, predators and prey coexisting in a delicate dance. Yet the lesson of the day lingered. Even in a world dominated by danger, compassion and courage could create a sanctuary. The giraffe's calm presence remained, a silent promise that even the smallest life could be shielded by the most unexpected ally. The savanna glimmered in gold and shadow as the day edged toward evening, a testament to the enduring power of trust, empathy, and the extraordinary beauty of survival.